When do you know that it's time to let go of a book? When is it time to hand it over and write no more?
When that last page is written, I do it with great relief. I have no problem in letting the book go. I have a wonderful Afrikaans editor, Deon Meyer. We've come a long way. We've worked together for the last 14 years, and I trust him absolutely. He's brilliant. So once I've written that last page, I gladly send it off to him and say, "Okay, now tell me how bad it really is."
And once you've written a book, how long before you start your next one?
About 3 months. I usually take a month off just to catch my breath and get the book out of my system. But inevitably, one starts thinking about the next book. So after a month, I'll start reading, doing research, talking to people who have the knowledge and the information that I need. And I'll do about 2 months of research, preliminary research, and then I'll get going again. The research never ends. I mean, it goes on in the writing process as well. But I do a lot of reading, a lot of interviews before I actually start writing.
Your relationship with your editor. You mentioned that you trust him. Could you speak a bit about that relationship?
I think it's a lot like a marriage, if you don't trust one another and if you don't respect one another, then it's not going to work. And I really have a great editor. I respect Etienne's insight, his knowledge. He's always been spot on, and this is something that happens over a long period. It takes years to establish this type of relationship. We just realize that everything that is ever pointed out in any of my books was spot on in terms of having to change it or adapt it or whatever the case may be. And it's friendship too, which is really great. I don't think if all authors have the privilege of having a great editor who's very professional, that you trust implicitly. That's also a very good
Do
friend.
books sort of translate into other languages? Do you get copies of them? Do you page through them? Do you try and make out what's been said?
No, I mean my Czech and my Bulgarian is really bad. With the German and the French that I can read a little bit, I will page through. But with the others, I look at the outside and it looks very good. And sometimes I'll sort of flip through it and just see my character names amongst all these absolutely incredible words that I don't understand, which gives me a great thrill. But it's just three or four of the translations that I really take a look at the text.
As you progress as a writer, you become famous, you become well known. How does that affect you? How does it affect you as a writer and as a person?
I think fame is very relative. I've had the opportunity to sit in a restaurant with some very famous South African people, and then you realize what real fame is all about. I don't think I'm famous at all. Very few people know my face, thank goodness. In terms of getting email through the website about the books, it's very nice to hear from readers, and in that sense, fame is not a problem, but I really don't think the word fame can apply to.
Fear as a writer. What is your great fear?
Well, obviously, my great fear is to write a real stinker of a book. I think fear is part of writing all the time. Every new book that you start, you fear that it might not be as good as the previous one. Every character that you create, every scene that you write, there's a fear that drives you to make it better, to make it work. There's the fear of having it published and waiting for the first reaction. With every book, I'm very unsure as to how it's going to be received by the readers, by the critics. So there's fear.
Unpublished manuscripts, are they in the bottom of your drawer?
None, thank goodness. When I write something and I find that it's not working, and luckily this has only happened to me once, then I stop. It took me 50 pages of a novel about 10 years ago to realize that it wasn't going to work, and then I stop and I start with something better. So there are none.